person attain to the first stream and enter or become the Sotapanamagga person just listening to Dhamma? That is my first question. Without getting to jhana, can that person become the first stream enterer? And my second question is, my teacher in Sri Lanka is a doctor, and he is doing some surgery while some person just after come out from the jhana. So he is doing some research kind of surgery. So is that those kind of things allowed from Dhamma? And if is it possible for a lay person to say if someone is an arahat? Is that possible? Or that kind of miracle researchers, is it allowed by Dhamma? So those are my questions. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Well, the first part of your question, can somebody attain to stream entry or stream winner through listening to the Dhamma? Well, listening to the Dhamma, the good Dhamma from the Noble Ones, is an essential factor, but we also have to practice. So listening is not enough on its own. We have to take what we've heard, we have to fully understand it, and then practice with it. Develop the path through practice. So right, all the rights, right view, right thought, right action, right speech, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right samadhi. The 8 factors of the path have to mature and come to fruition in the mind of the practitioner, and that can only be done through practicing as well as listening. And we're not probably as advanced as the practitioners in the time of the Buddha who sit down, hear one talk, and straight away they become enlightened. Those people were well developed from many past lifetimes when they practice. We are still practicing, so we probably have to hear many Dhamma talks before we get enlightened, but we have to put it into practice as well. We have to keep the precepts, we have to develop mindfulness, we have to do our vipassana meditation. The other parts of the question, well, I don't know the doctor you're referring to, how he lives and his circumstances, so I'm not really able to comment a lot, but lay people certainly can practice the Dhamma. If one is a doctor or in some form or other, medical doctor, helping people out of compassion, that can go together with practicing the Dhamma. It shouldn't be incompatible. If one has good intention, one has knowledge and skills, and one's sharing that out of compassion, that can be a good way to earn a living and help people and support the practicing of the Dhamma itself. But as you'll probably be aware, the more we practice, the more time and energy we devote to the practice. So most people find as they are progressing in their practice, they start to withdraw a little bit from the world. So some of the lay people I know who seem to have had good realization and understanding in their practice, they often reach a point where they retire from just earning money and performing the more worldly duties, even though they might have had a good job which helped people or whatever. And they spend more time in the monastery or in retreat, devoted to the practice of meditation, maybe keeping the 8 precepts or ordaining as a monk or a nun. But generally that's the way it goes, because one devotes more and more time to the practice, so one has to make a choice and leave some of the worldly activities behind. But when that choice is taken, at what moment, it depends on the practitioner and how their development goes.
Can I please invite Shuni Tanhuang? Ajahn, what do I do, because I keep having the tendency to expect some kind of progress in my practice. Intellectually, I know that I'm not supposed to do that, but each time when I practice, I sit and so, hey, how come I'm not making progress? And how come I'm still having my thoughts splitting all over the place? Yeah. So it's one thing to tell myself, it's quite another when it comes to reality of practice.
Well, I think we all do that. And it is part of the practice to review our efforts and observe what's going on. Am I practicing correctly? Do I need to adjust? Most of us tend towards laziness and indulgence, so sometimes we have to kick ourselves up the backside and get ourselves moving again, do more practice, try harder. But not always. Sometimes people are trying too hard and they need to relax. So a certain amount of reviewing one's efforts, assessing oneself is part of the practice. There's nothing wrong with it, but it can become obsessive and just an obstruction because we become too concerned. Often, in a short period of time, we're always judging ourselves and saying, oh, I'm meditating today, or my mind is full of this problem, that problem, I'm no good, I'm going backwards, and we start going into a spiral of negativity or self-criticism. So one has to watch out for that and try and take a balanced approach. So, often our lives are split up into periods of time. So we have one day, and then we have a week, and then a month, and a year, and then during our year we have different events which become kind of like landmarks. So like we have Wesak, the Buddha's birthday, or we have Vasa, or we have New Year. So a very common practice is once in a while we do review our life and our practice and give ourselves a period of time to assess. So it might not be every day because one day is perhaps too short to see any significant changes, but 1 month, or probably more likely one Vasa, a 3-month period, or retreat period, that's a very good period to assess at the end of it how your effort went, how your mind is. Or like New Year or a birthday or some annual event, you sit back for a while, take that time to be with yourself and think about your practice. Oh, this last year, how has my practice gone? Did I keep the precepts regularly or only occasionally or not at all? Did I keep up my regular meditation practice regularly or just occasionally or not at all? How has my mind been? Am I feeling more stressed this year than last year? Do I get more irritated and annoyed with things? Have I built up any grudges with a particular person over this last year? How am I feeling about myself? Am I more depressed and down, or am I feeling more upbeat? Is my effort continuing? Do I continue to put effort into my practice and aspire to develop myself? Over a period of a year, maybe you can really look at that, look at your practice and get some good understanding. Maybe 3 months even you can do that. But the shorter periods, it gets a bit difficult because, of course, you'll have days when it's going up and down. Some days you seem to be very mindful and trying hard and your insight seems to be clear, and then another day, nothing. Back to square one, mind all over the place, thinking too much, getting angry, getting sad, getting depressed, whatever. On a day-by-day basis, it might be quite hard to assess or judge your practice, but on a longer term, maybe you can do it. So have a balanced approach to that, and once you've assessed, say, your practice over the last retreat period or the last year, well, you can make decisions then, and you say, okay, this year I'm going to make sure every day I keep the 5 precepts strictly, or I'm going to keep the 8 precepts once a week, or I'm going to meditate a bit longer this year. I used to be able to meditate every day for 30 minutes. Now I'm going to try for 1 hour per day. Whatever you feel you need to improve, whether it's personal weaknesses and habits that need to be addressed and let go of, or whether it's setting yourself new goals, new targets. From time to time we do that. Annually or every 3 months, 6 months, we may assess things and take on new targets or work on new problems that we've observed in ourselves. So that's okay. That's good. But day by day you might find it just a little bit too short, the ups and downs of the mind, and it is too difficult to assess your practice. You need to give yourself a longer period of time to do that.
Paul, the question is, there are good feelings and there are bad feelings.
Yeah.
How can we cultivate neutral feelings?
Oh, well, becoming more aware of them in daily life when your mind isn't experiencing pleasure or pain, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling. There are those moments where the feeling seems to be neither pleasant nor unpleasant, and the only way to expose or reveal that is mindfulness. So sometimes ask yourself through your day, how am I feeling right now? And if there's no clear pleasure, no clear pain, maybe you're experiencing neither pleasure nor pain at that moment, and be mindful of it. What the Buddha said is if we're not mindful of neutral feeling, it tends to promote dullness. The mind goes dull. It's not being stimulated in one way or the other, so we go towards dullness. Whereas for the Aryapugala, the noble ones, when they experience neutral feeling, because their mindfulness is already well developed, their insight is well developed, neutral feeling becomes a form of pleasure for them. Because neutral feeling is not painful, so it's quite pleasurable for someone who's mindful, and it's not a problem, not an obstacle for them. But for us, because we're not always mindful, it tends to stimulate dullness. And so you see sometimes when people have had a lot of pain, neutral feeling, well, they haven't got any pleasure, but neutral feeling is better than nothing. So they go towards this neutral or numb state. They like the numbness of the mind or of the body because it's better than the pain they had before. But because they're not very mindful, that numb feeling, by attaching to it and indulging in it, it tends to lead them to more dullness, blankness of mind or sleepiness. So that's the danger with neutral feeling, is it tends to be unstimulating, so it can lead us towards dullness, sleepiness. So you have to work hard to bring up the mindfulness. Of course, later on, when your mindfulness becomes very continuous and you're developing the factors of enlightenment, well, then one might experience a lot more upekkha through states of samadhi, states of calm. Then one experiences neither pleasure nor pain because the mind is in a state of samadhi, upekkha. But that comes with the development of the practice. It's a more refined kinds of neutral feeling.
Bad karma leads to rebirth in lower birth, like animal birth, bad karma. And good karma leads to rebirth in higher births, like Deva Loka. Can there be neutral karma which can lead to Nibbana?
Well, you're probably, strictly speaking, you say attaining Nibbana is the result of good karma, developing the path, which is good karma. But it's the karma, we say the karma for the ending of karma. Because one who has attained Nibbana, the Arahant, they no longer make karma. There's no longer an attachment to the five khandhas, the sense of self. So there's no person left to make karma, so they don't have to receive future rebirth, or they're not creating karma. They're still receiving some of their old karma while they're still alive, but once they pass away, enter Nibbana, that's the end of it. So it's really the results of good karma. Neutral karma only really exists for the Arahant. It's one way of calling the karma of an Arahant. They call it giriya in the Abhidhamma. Giriya means it's just action, activity, but without intention, and no karma is made. So in a way it's neutral, but normally speaking, we're either just, for practical purposes, we're just making good karma or bad karma, good intention, bad intention. So when we're cultivating the path, whether it's through generosity, keeping sila, developing mindfulness, developing wisdom and insight, that's all considered good karma, resulting in good results, raising the level of the mind, and like you say, practicing the path. When one dies, if one hasn't reached Nibbana, one may attain a good rebirth in a heaven realm, or back as a human maybe. Whereas when one is not heedful, not mindful, and one falls under this sway of anger or greed, well, one's karma can become more negative, more harmful, and that results in unpleasant states of mind, suffering, and in rebirth perhaps in lower realms, animal realms, hell realms. But what we're really developing in the path is good karma, but it's the karma for the ending of karma. That's our ultimate intention, is to reach the point where there's no more sense of self or attachment to the five khandhas, then no more karma is made.
How can we rest assured karma actually works instead of taking it into our own hands? Thank you.
Well, it's a teaching you take on as a theory, first of all. The Buddha has given this teaching based on his experience, his wisdom. Out of compassion, he's sharing this wisdom with us. But we still have to say, like you say, we have to take it on board and kind of prove it for ourselves. For me, I didn't find it took very long for me to prove that karma is at work in my life. So, you start to observe yourself when you have, anger is a very easy one to pick up on. When you're angry and you speak in anger or you act in anger or even just angry thoughts, it affects you, doesn't it? It affects you. It leaves an unpleasant feeling in your mind, even in your body. Your speech becomes unpleasant to hear, often leads to negative outcomes. Your actions undertaken with an angry state of mind tend to be harmful, destructive in small ways, in bigger ways. It doesn't take very long to prove that by observing yourself in daily life. When you're angry, you do things that you regret, you do things that are harmful. When you have a mind state of kindness, compassion, or you're more mindful, more aware, your actions, your speech, and your thinking reflect that, and it has totally different results. When you're kind to someone, you tend to get quite quickly see good results. You feel good about what you've done. They often have a good reaction. When you're unkind to someone, it pushes them away. They get upset, angry. You feel bad. It leads to a totally different result. So the place to learn about karma is in your daily life. What you think, what you say, what you do every day. Observe. And it will make you much more careful, much more aware of consequences. Your actions have consequences. They're not always immediately obvious, so that's why often people have doubts. They say, I've done all this good and I don't see the good results. Or somebody did some really bad things, but I don't see them getting punished. They got away with it. It's not fair. There are many instances where we can't yet see karma at work so closely or so clearly, which does give rise to doubt. But just observe from your own state of mind, your own actions. That's where you can really go beyond doubt. And you should quite quickly come to appreciate your state of mind, the quality of your intentions matters because they have consequences. And I have no doubt that when you follow this eightfold path we've been discussing, put it into practice, make that effort, it brings you good things. It brings you peace, happiness, clarity, understanding. It's for the benefit of others as well. It helps you to help other people as well. I have no doubt about that just because I've practiced that and it's correct. And when I see people doing unskillful things, it brings bad results. It brings suffering to them, to others. And I have no doubt about that because I've seen it from my own life and I've seen it from others. So the place to learn and understand karma is from yourself. Observe yourself, learn about cause and effect in your daily life, and you should come to appreciate it. It's true.
Can I invite David, please? You're unmuted. Hi, David.
Yeah, thank you. Longbo, thank you very much for your Dhamma talk. I have a question I've been meditating and I've been keeping my precept, but sometimes the thought will come to me that, it is so difficult to become a human being, and if you are not enlightened, then there's some form of concern or fear that we will be reborn in the lower rank. can Long Paul advise us how, what should we think about it, or what should we cultivate so that, that thought will go on, or what should we do? This thought doesn't come every day, but once a while it will come.
Well, in a way, you could say that's your own mind prompting you to do more good. Your own mind is warning you that nothing is guaranteed. Your mind can fall back into more unskillful negative states. You can become more greedy, selfish, more angry, more confused in your behavior. It's possible. So once in a while, your mind is reminding you of that. It's saying, oh, be careful. Don't fall back. Don't be heedless. Think about what you're doing. Use your time well, because your time here in the world is limited. As a human being, you might get 70, 80 years, but you don't know how long you've got. Use that time well to further your progress along the path. Do more good for yourself, for others, because it's not sure. You could fall back. So in a way, it's a good thought to have that little bit of fear, concern. What kind of karma am I making day by day? Where am I going to be reborn if I haven't reached Nibbana? That can help to motivate you to practice more. And sometimes teachers do that. Some of our teachers, they come here to Australia and they come to our monastery, and we have a lot of animals here. So as soon as they see the kangaroos bouncing around, they start warning people. They say, oh, if you don't practice, you're going to end up like a kangaroo. Do you want that? Maybe people mistakenly might think, oh, to be born as a kangaroo is good. You just lie in the sun and you bounce around and you eat your food. But it's not much fun being a kangaroo. They have a lot of suffering, they have confusion, dullness, pain, and they don't know what to do about it. So it's not something good to be born as a kangaroo. So you see a kangaroo, that's your reminder, oh, I'm a human, I can do better, I can practice my meditation, I can learn the Dhamma, I can help other people, I'll do more good. You can even help kangaroos if you want, but do everything you can to develop more good karma, because it's not sure. You can fall back. And the Buddha himself talked about his own challenges and trials in previous lives. And then he talked about other people who have had trials and challenges, and not everybody who dies from this world is guaranteed to be reborn as a human. It depends on karma. So keep practicing. Stay close to good people, associate with good people, good teachers, listen to the Dhamma, respect the Dhamma, put it into practice in your life, respect the goodness in yourself and nurture that every day. If you do that, that's all you can do, isn't it? You can just do the best you can with the opportunities you have. Then you can feel, oh, I'm using my time well, I'm using my life well. So actually things like this, the coronavirus pandemic, lockdown, government restrictions, even though it's put pressure on people and it's inconvenient and things aren't as good as they were before in some respects, if you look at it in another way, it's actually been quite useful for people. It's a wake-up call. Now we really have to practice, because we're seeing life is unsure. Coronavirus has made travel difficult. The economy is difficult. Study is difficult. Families are cooped up in their houses, can't go here, can't go there. That's a reminder to practice. So if you're thinking correctly, you can even say, thank you, coronavirus, you've helped me to see the Dhamma, practice the Dhamma more than before. If you're thinking correctly, it can even be like that.
Thank you. That's it from everyone.